Suppose this for a second. Everything you've ever heard about Jesus on the cross is just a curtain, a poetic cover for a mind-blowing truth about who we really are inside. What if that wooden cross wasn't built for agony, but to reflect the inner fire every person has to walk through to wake up from the dream that we're all alone? What if Jesus wasn't talking about dying, but about setting free the sacred flame that's already burning in each of us, the same flame Spinoza called God and everything? Buckle up, because we're about to flip everything you thought you knew about faith, philosophy, and the fabric of existence itself. In this video, we're pulling back the veil on Christianity's best-kept secret, the whisper that mystics, thinkers, and wanderers have passed down for ages. We'll walk through how Baruch Spinoza, the guy everyone misread, cracked open the real meaning of the crucifixion, not as a sad historical footnote, but as a universal roadmap to waking up. Stick around to the very last second, because the final twist will rewrite how you look at living, dying, and the divine. If hidden wisdom, lost stories, and the threads tying philosophy to the mystical get your heart racing, hit subscribe, drop a like, and send this to anyone chasing the same light. What's coming might spark something ancient in you, a memory your soul's been holding on to. Here we go. Spinoza came into the world in 1600s Amsterdam, when religion owned the air everyone breathed, yet he refused to bow. He looked past the rules and declared that God isn't some far-off king on a throne. God is the whole show, endless, timeless, woven into every leaf, breath, and heartbeat. That idea shook the foundations because it toppled the power of anyone claiming to speak for heaven. But Spinoza saw what the gatekeepers missed. The sacred isn't out there to chase. It's inside, waiting to be recognized. Now stop and imagine. What if Jesus was saying the exact same thing? What if his whole mission boiled down to Spinoza's core truth? That God's kingdom isn't a very important person lounge after you're gone, but a way of seeing you can step into right now. When Jesus said the kingdom is inside you, he wasn't tossing out a feel-good line. He was laying down a cosmic principle. The same one Spinoza later spelled out with cold, clear logic. The divine and the human aren't two different teams. They're two faces of one endless reality. Could that be real point of the cross? Not a ransom paid in blood, but the moment the lie of me versus God finally crumbles. Seen this way, the cross isn't a gallows, it's a doorway. It's the instant the separate self gives up the fight and melts into the oneness of everything. For ages, churches have sold the story as pain, shame, and heavenly anger. But Spinoza's God has zero space for tantrums or payback. God doesn't keep score. God is the field where replay happens. So the crucifixion can't be about settling a debt. It has to be about recognition, the split second when humanity gets a front row seat to the fact that living and dying are just two angles on the same forever. Take a breath. Look at a cross. What hits you? A torture device or a symbol of total makeover? Could the spikes and gashes stand for the ego getting unpicked so the soul can remember it's divine? Spinoza put it plain, the more you get it, the more you love it. Understanding flips fear into awe. Apply that to Jesus and the whole picture flips. The cross stops being tragedy and starts being boundless love, the love that erases the line between maker and made. Every heavyweight mystic from Eckhart to Bohm dropped the same hint. Real resurrection is divine awareness rebooting inside us. Spinoza took that gut knowing and gave it bones of reason. He said to really grasp the cross, quit staring at the sky and start scanning the blueprint of being itself. So tell me, could Jesus and Spinoza have been reading from the same eternal script, just one in parable, the other in proof? Could what got nailed up that day wasn't God's kid, but the hallucination that anything stands apart from its source? Next up, we plunge deeper, unpacking how Spinoza's God or nature explodes the crucifixion into a spiritual supernova and rewires your whole take on the sacred and the real. To grab the bombshell Spinoza dropped, we first have to clock how wildly his God differed from the one Christianity had been selling for centuries. The official line painted God as a boss outside the org chart, personal, moody, ready with carrots or sticks. Spinoza called that the biggest head fake in history. Picturing God with a personality is like trying to stuff infinity into a coffee cup. For him, God isn't a player on the field. God is the feel, the rules, the air, the roar of the crowd. God is a single substance holding every thought, rock, and dream together. When he said Deus sive Natura, God, period, nature, he wasn't just romanticizing trees, he meant the intelligence behind every ripple, the one current wearing infinite costumes. Nothing sits outside this dance, not evil, not heartbreak, not the grave. Now drop the crucifixion into that ocean. Strip away the sermons, and Jesus hanging there maps perfectly onto every human trek toward waking up. The body screams, the ego claws to stay king, but awareness just watches. Then comes the surrender, Father, I hand it over, and boom, the wall between me and everything collapses. That's the real crucifixion. Not a guy's last breath, but the last breath of the lie that were solo acts. The mind quits hugging its tiny shape and sees itself as a ripple of the endless. The cross turns into the exact spot where sky kisses dirt, where forever brushes now. Spinoza never crowned Jesus God Jr., but he did call him the gold standard of a human mind locked in step with the infinite brain of the cosmos. In his masterwork Ethics, he says a mind can line up so clean it becomes a perfect printout of God's boundless code. Picture the crucifixion not as payback for bad report cards, but as the neon sign flashing, wake up, this is possible for you. Every spike is an ego knot coming undone, every rip a fake story peeling off. The thorny crown, that's truth on fire, torching old wiring. Could this be the Christianity that got buried? That the cross isn't scary, it's the welcome mat to enlightenment? What if rising isn't a one-time stunt, but a door any bravey who drops the act can walk through? Spinoza's logic levels the playing field. If God is the juice in every atom, the gap between holy and human is smoke. Crucifixion becomes the big reveal party. Jesus' pain is the stand-in for every soul wrestling free from fog. That last exhale is total merger. Grasp this, and the tale quits living in textbooks and moves into your bones. The cross isn't two beams in Jerusalem. It's the weight of wanting, dreading, clinging. We all lug. We each get the invite to set it down. The death that follows isn't lights out, it's lights on. Ever wonder why the church branded this dangerous? Because if God's in the room with you, who needs a middleman? Jesus and Spinoza both got labeled troublemakers for the same reason. They handed the keys to the kingdom, straight to the people. No membership fees, no secret handshake. Just look, see, live. That's why this finish wasn't giving up. It was game over for the illusion. The curtain dropped. The kid remembered home. Spinoza put it in lab coat terms. The clear mind doesn't grovel. It knows itself as one gear in God's perfect machine. How would your day shift if you quit the sinner script and started reading the divine expression on your forehead? How much dread would evaporate? God wanted wonder, not worship. The crucifixion, filtered through Spinoza, is alchemy. Pain into insight, cage into sky. But there's a deeper chamber still. Next, we crack the code of resurrection itself. The cosmic gear shift where consciousness sheds skin, loops back, and levels up. Inside us and across the stars, peel back another layer on resurrection. And it's never been about a magic trick defying physics. It's the hardwired law of the universe. Form always checks out so essence can clock in. This isn't a zombie sequel. It's the blueprint of awareness busting past the speed limit of time. In Spinoza's world, every single thing is a ripple on one ocean called God or nature. Nothing actually flatlines. It just swaps outfits. A wave crashes, the sea shrugs, same water, new shape. Death is that shrug on a human scale. So Jesus stepping out of the tomb isn't breaking news. It's the headline of how reality works. His comeback is divine IQ switching on inside skin and bone. The boulder rolling away as the blindfold sliding off the mind. Death gets outed, not as the final boss, but as a doorway to sharper vision. Spinoza said the human mind doesn't vanish when the body does. Something in it is stamped eternal. Same glow the mystics called soul fire. Every one of us carries a slice that laughs at clocks and rot. Resurrection is waking up to that slice. It's the infinite throwing a party inside the temporary. What if resurrection isn't a calendar date, but a live feed? Every time you outgrow an old fear, every time you climb out of a dark thought, a mini Easter happens. Old you checks out, new you checks in. Could the second coming be Christ-level awareness going viral inside the species? The same universal smart Spinoza pegged as the backbone of everything? That flips the script from museum piece to operating system. Crucifixion and Resurrection stop being ancient history and start being phases of soul gym. Spinoza gives the workout plan. Everything alive is driven to keep growing, to fill out its full pattern. He named that drive conatus. Resurrection is conatus hitting the jackpot. Self-knowing gone divine. Now for the secret symbols. The cross is where opposites high-five. Spirit crossing matter, forever slicing now, boundless meeting border. Jesus rising isn't bailing on the horizontal. It's marrying it to the vertical. The kid born from that wedding sees one reality, no seams. Hermetic nerds said the same, as above, so below. To ditch the either or, the self has to croak to the idea of sides. Spinoza's math lands there too. All splits are just costumes on one actor. When Jesus stood up, he didn't ghost the planet. He finally saw it clear, wholly in every speck. Here's the ultimate mic drop. Resurrection isn't evacuation, it's coronation of the dirt. Spinoza's God lives in the mud, not past it. Risen Jesus isn't a hologram. He's proof that spirit and stuff are one long exhale. To wake up is to live resurrected. Eyes wide to the sacred in traffic jams and coffee steam. What corner of you is still wrapped in grave cloth? What fear boulder are you ready to roll? Resurrection as awareness upgrade fuses Spinoza's cool-headed mysticism with Jesus's heart-on-fire gospel. God isn't a destination. God is the address you're already at. Crucifixion kills the lie. Resurrection proves the truth is bulletproof. Together, they spin the wheel of waking up forever. Word is post-tomb. Jesus didn't float in for applause. He showed up to remind his crew they were next in line. You'll top my highlight reel. Not poetry, blueprint. Keep the awakening rolling. Turn into conscious artists inside God's infinite canvas. Spinoza would nod. Liberation isn't mailed from HQ. It's unpacked from the inside. One last veil to lift. Beyond equations, at the pulse of everything, beats love. The glue Spinoza chased with logic, but met with open arms. Spinoza's road was reason, but his finish line was love. Under the steel-trap prose lived a soft spot big as the sky. The deeper you see, the deeper you love, because seeing kills the gap. Love for him wasn't butterflies, it was the moment when you clock that every face and an ache is the same infinite wearing a new mask. Fear dies, judgment clocks out, and reverence moves in. Now picture Jesus, not the marble statue, but the walking heartbeat that saw straight through skin to soul. Love your enemies wasn't a Sunday school slogan, it was physics. Loving the jerk who cut you off is seeing past the jersey to the same team logo underneath. Not nice guy tolerance. 2020 is truth vision. That's the golden thread tying Spinoza to the cross. Both knew love is truth, wearing its Sunday best. Spinoza's line, he who loves God cannot endeavor that God love him in return, gets twisted all the time. He meant divine love isn't a trade. It's the infinite high-fiving itself through our eyes, a loop with no start or stop. God loving God through you loving you through God. Endless. So the cross is love spotting itself inside the worst Friday ever. Forgive them. Their sleepwalking is peak awareness, zero pushback, total embrace. Even the clueless are part of the choreography. Spinoza would call it the mind sync to eternity's playlist. Resurrection, then, is love outrunning fear, love canceling death, love thumping inside atoms like a bass line older than stars. To climb out of your own grave is to see every high and low as the same infinite flexing. Here's Christianity's buried treasure. Cross and empty tomb aren't cosmic IOU and payoff. They're unity's coming out party. Jesus didn't dangle to calm a ticked-off deity. He let go to prove the deity was never ticked. Atonement means at one meant, snapping back into the memory that we never left. Spinoza got there with a slide rule and still landed on the same shoreline. His intellectual love of God is where head and heart fuse. No reality, love reality, be reality. That's the glow leaking from the empty tomb. Not for museum worship, for daily wear. Imagine the planet remembering this. Divine isn't upstairs, it's underfoot. Rescue isn't shipped, it's remembered. Love isn't a transaction, it's the transaction. Wars over rulebooks end. Damnation panic attacks fade. Faith and lab coats shake hands. Philosophy turns into living prayer. Temples turn into classrooms. And humans finally read the fine print. Made of star stuff and God stuff, no assembly required. Right now, what's your personal crucifixion? What story of less than are you still lugging? What illusion keeps the resurrection on hold? The cross isn't history homework, it's the X marking the spot where finite you and infinite everything overlap. Wake up there, and Easter is today. Spinoza's God isn't a bouncer, it's the pulse in your wrist, the spark behind your eyes, the dream engine running your nights. Christ isn't a hero on a pedestal, he's the wake-up call echoing in every chest. Different accents, same sentence, you and the all are the same address. The gap was always fake. Dawn on that, and every inhale is incense, every step a pilgrimage. Heaven isn't a zip code, it's the bandwidth of oneness. Resurrection isn't post-mortem, it's post-dilution. Love isn't out there, it's the out there inside here. Loop closed. Crucifixion unveiled. Resurrection verified. Spinoza dusted off with logic what the mystics felt in their bones. The divine isn't a belief, it's the air you're breathing. The ultimate Christianity Easter egg isn't locked in a vault or a cathedral. It's behind your eyelids in the quiet that watches the noise. There, cosmos and Christ share one heartbeat. There, Spinoza's infinity and Jesus's mercy aren't rivals. They're the same voice saying, I am. So here's the takeaway. To get it is to love it, and to love it is to live wide awake. Cross, cave, sunrise, and that bedtime stories are your itinerary. See it clear and you'll hear what both men spent their lives shouting. The kingdom's been open 24/7, address inside. Thanks for riding along.